Look at somebody next to you and tell them, this year is different. No, not tell them like you mean it. This year is different. You've spent years doing it for your family. You've done it for friends. You've done it for people who never clapped when you succeeded and never showed up when you struggled. But 2026 is the year you do it for yourself. Now listen to me. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are tired of pouring from an empty cup. Somewhere along the way, you learned how to survive, but you forgot how to choose yourself. You kept sacrificing, shrinking, postponing your dreams, saying, one day, one day, one day. But one day has a date now, and that date is 2026. This is the year you stop explaining yourself, the year you stop asking for permission, the year you stop betraying your future to make others comfortable, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. Because if you don't do it for yourself, who will? Somewhere along the way, you learned how to disappear, not all at once, not loudly, but quietly, gradually, piece by piece. You learned how to say yes when your spirit was screaming no. You learned how to smile while your heart was tired. You learned how to keep showing up for everybody else while slowly walking away from yourself. And nobody called it what it was. They called it being strong. They called it being responsible. They called it being mature. But the truth is, you didn't become strong. You became absent from your own life. You started adjusting who you were to fit into rooms that were never designed for your growth. You lowered your voice, delayed your dreams, minimized your needs, and convinced yourself that this was just a phase, that one day you would come back to yourself. But days turned into years and years turned into habits. And now here you are, wondering why you feel empty, even though you've done everything you were supposed to do. Let me tell you something most people won't tell you. You don't lose yourself all at once. You abandon yourself every time you ignore that inner voice telling you this is not enough. You abandon yourself every time you choose comfort over calling, every time you stay silent when you should speak, every time you keep giving to people who keep taking. That is how self-abandonment happens, not through one big decision, but through 1,000 small betrayals. And the dangerous part is this: you can still look successful while abandoning yourself. You can still be praised, promoted like needed. But at night, when the noise dies down, you feel it. That quiet ache, that sense that something is missing. Not something the real you, the you that had dreams before life taught you how to be practical. The you that believed without fear before disappointment made you cautious. You keep telling yourself, I'll rest later. I'll focus on myself after this season. I'll chase my dream once things slow down. But life doesn't slow down. It only asks more. And every time you postpone yourself, you send a message to your soul that it can wait. Over time, your soul starts believing you. That's when passion fades. That's when joy feels forced. That's when you start living on autopilot, just getting through the day instead of being alive in it. Hear me clearly. Choosing yourself does not mean rejecting others. It means refusing to keep rejecting yourself. It means you stop measuring your worth by how useful you are to people who would never sacrifice the way you do. It means you stop apologizing for needing space, growth, healing, and rest. You were not created to be a resource that everyone drains. You were created to be a vessel with purpose. There is a version of you that has been waiting patiently, waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to stop numbing the discomfort with business, waiting for you to finally admit that the life you're living no longer fits the person you're becoming. And that version of you is not angry. It's exhausted. This is the year you stop disappearing. This is the year you stop leaving yourself behind to keep the peace. This is the year you stand up in your own life and say, I matter too. Because when you stop abandoning yourself, you don't just change your life, you give yourself permission to finally live it. Let's be honest about something most people don't want to hear. Love is not just what you feel. Love is what you do when the feeling is gone. Love is not proven in moments of excitement. It's revealed in moments of resistance. And when it comes to your own life, discipline is the purest form of self-love you will ever practice. Not the loud kind, not the glamorous kind, but the quiet, consistent kind that shows up even when nobody is watching. Because if you only show up for yourself when you feel inspired, then you are still letting your emotions control your future. Motivation is a visitor. It comes and goes. Some days it walks in strong, and other days it never shows up at all. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision. It says, I will show up anyway. It says, I will keep my word to myself even when I'm tired, discouraged, or afraid. That is love in action. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, you are rebuilding trust with yourself. And trust is everything, because a broken relationship with yourself is why so many people start strong and finish nowhere. You don't lack talent. You don't lack potential. What you lack is consistency with the promises you keep breaking to yourself. And every broken promise chips away at your confidence until you stop believing yourself altogether. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your future from your present emotions. It protects your calling from your comfort. It protects the life you say you want from the habits that are quietly destroying it. When you choose discipline, you are choosing to care enough about your future self to inconvenience your present self. That is not cruelty. That is compassion. Most people think self-love looks like rest, ease, and indulgence. Sometimes it does, but real self-love also looks like getting up when you want to stay in bed. It looks like saying no to distractions that feel good now but cost you later. It looks like staying focused when quitting would be easier. Discipline is how you tell yourself you are worth the effort. It's how you say, I believe in who you are becoming, even if you don't see it yet. And let me say this clearly. Nobody drifts into purpose. Nobody accidentally becomes disciplined. You have to choose it daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes moment by moment. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, when it feels like you're carrying a weight no one else sees. But that weight is shaping you. It's strengthening parts of you that comfort never could. When you avoid discipline, you don't avoid pain. You just postpone it. The pain of regret is always heavier than the pain of effort. The pain of wishing you had started sooner lasts longer than the pain of doing the work now. Discipline hurts, yes, but it hurts in a way that heals. It hurts in a way that produces results. It hurts in a way that builds pride instead of shame. There is a version of you that is waiting on your discipline, waiting on you to stop negotiating with your excuses, waiting on you to stop romanticizing motivation and start respecting commitment. That version of you doesn't need you to feel ready. It needs you to be faithful. This year, loving yourself means holding yourself accountable. It means raising your standards instead of lowering your expectations. It means proving to yourself day after day that you can be trusted with your own future, because discipline is not about control. It's about care. And when you practice discipline, you are finally loving yourself in a way that changes everything. There is a version of you that deserves honor, not hatred. The version that survived what almost broke you. The version that learned how to adapt when life became unpredictable. The version that figured out how to keep going when quitting would have been easier. That version of you is not weak. It is not foolish. It did its job. But here is the truth that requires courage to accept. The version of you that helped you survive is not the version that can lead you into your next season. Survival teaches you how to endure, not how to expand. It trains you to stay alert, to play it safe, to expect loss before gain. And while that mindset once protected you, it can quietly become a prison if you carry it too long. What once kept you alive can now keep you small. You start making decisions based on fear instead of faith. You choose familiarity over growth. You stay where you are because at least you know how to survive there. You learn to settle because settling felt safer than hoping again. You learn to manage your expectations so disappointment wouldn't hurt as much. You learn to keep your dreams reasonable, your goals modest, your voice measured, and without realizing it, you began to confuse caution with wisdom. But wisdom doesn't just know how to avoid pain. Wisdom knows when it's time to risk growth. Outgrowing a version of yourself does not mean disrespecting your past. It means recognizing that you are no longer who you were when you learned those habits. You are no longer in the same environment. You are no longer fighting the same battles, yet you keep responding as if the danger is still there. You flinch when there is no threat. You shrink when there is space to stand tall. That's not humility. That's memory trying to control your future. And let's be honest, growth feels like betrayal to the old you. It feels uncomfortable to step into rooms you once thought you didn't belong in. It feels unnatural to ask for more when you were trained to be grateful for less. There is guilt that shows up when you start wanting better, as if honoring your potential means dishonoring your past struggles. But the truth is, your past did not suffer so your future could stay stuck. You don't heal by staying who you were. You heal by becoming who you were meant to be. And becoming requires release. You cannot carry survival habits into a season that requires vision. You cannot build something new with a mindset designed only to get through the day. At some point, you have to stop asking, how do I make it through? And start asking, how do I rise? The old version of you is familiar. It knows how to cope, how to endure, how to get by. The new version of you is uncertain. It asks you to trust yourself in ways you never had to before. It asks you to take responsibility not just for surviving, but for thriving. And that responsibility can feel heavier than struggle because now the ceiling is no longer life. It's you. Outgrowing yourself means allowing the discomfort of expansion. It means letting go of identities that no longer fit, even if they once kept you safe. It means giving yourself permission to want more without needing to justify it. The fear you feel is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is a sign you are leaving familiar ground. This year is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more of who you already are. The old version of you carried you this far. Honor it. Thank it. But do not let it decide how far you are allowed to go next. You have been telling yourself the same story for a long time. I'll start when things settle down. I'll go after it when I'm more prepared. I'll move when the timing is right. And each time you say it, it sounds reasonable, responsible even, but underneath that story is something far more dangerous than fear. It's delay disguised as wisdom. Dreams do not die because people stop believing in them. Dreams die because people keep postponing them. They die quietly, not from rejection, but from neglect, from being placed on the shelf again and again until one day you walk past them and no longer recognize them as yours. And the tragedy is not that you couldn't do it. The tragedy is that you kept convincing yourself you would do it later. Later is one of the most deceptive words in the human language. Later makes you feel safe without making you change. Later gives you the comfort of intention without the cost of action. Later lets you feel productive while staying in the same place. But later has no calendar, it has no deadline, and what has no deadline rarely gets done. You keep waiting for confidence to show up before you move, not realizing that confidence is a result, not a requirement. You keep waiting for clarity, not understanding that clarity comes from motion. You want certainty before commitment, when commitment is what creates certainty. And so you stay stuck, not because you lack ability, but because you are waiting for a version of life that does not exist. There will never be a perfect season. There will never be a moment when everything aligns and fear disappears. If you wait for comfort, you will wait forever. Growth does not ask if you are ready. It asks if you are willing to step forward while your hands are still shaking, willing to begin before you feel confident, willing to look foolish in the process of becoming faithful to your calling. Every delayed dream has a cost. It costs momentum. It costs belief. It costs time you cannot get back. And the longer you wait, the heavier it feels to start. What once felt exciting begins to feel intimidating. What once felt possible begins to feel unrealistic, not because the dream changed, but because distance has weakened your connection to it. And here is the part people don't talk about. When you delay your dreams long enough, you start resenting them. They become reminders of what you didn't do instead of visions of what you could become. You begin to silence them because their presence makes you uncomfortable. And so you stay busy with other things, good things even, to avoid facing the ache of unrealized potential. But the dream did not come to torment you. It came to invite you. It came because there is something in you that the world needs. And every time you ignore it, you don't just delay success, you delay alignment, you delay becoming fully yourself. You delay the version of you that wakes up with purpose instead of pressure. Starting does not require everything to be figured out. It requires honesty. Honesty about the fact that waiting has not made it easier. Honesty about the fact that fear will be present whether you move or stay still. At least if you move, fear has a direction. This year is not about rushing. It is about responding. Responding to the nudge you've been feeling but keep pushing away. Responding to the truth that the window you're waiting for may never open unless you push it. Your dream is not asking for perfection. It is asking for participation. And the moment you stop delaying is the moment your future finally gets permission to begin. You are exhausted, not because you are doing too much, but because too many people have access to you. Too many voices speak into your life. Too many demands pull on your attention. Too many opinions sit in your mind rent-free. And little by little, your energy has been scattered across conversations, commitments, and expectations that were never meant to carry your future. Not everyone who wants your time deserves it. Not everyone who calls your name is assigned to your destiny. Some people are distractions dressed up as obligations. And because you don't want to disappoint, you keep showing up, even when your spirit is telling you that this is costing you more than it's giving back. You confuse availability with loyalty. You confuse overextension with love. And the price you pay is your clarity. Energy is not just physical, it is mental, it is emotional, it is spiritual. And when you allow everyone access to it, you slowly lose the ability to hear yourself think. You wake up tired before the day even begins because your mind is already cluttered with other people's problems, expectations, and urgency. You are reacting instead of creating, responding instead of leading, surviving instead of building. The truth is you don't need more time. You need fewer drains. You don't need more motivation. You need better boundaries. Because every yes that is not aligned with your purpose is a no to your future. And every time you ignore that truth, you teach people how to use you instead of how to respect you. There is a difference between being kind and being accessible. Kindness does not require constant availability. Love does not require self-betrayal. You can care deeply and still say no. You can be generous and still be guarded. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is stewardship. You cannot pour from a cup that everyone keeps drinking from without permission. Some people only know you for what you provide, not for who you are. They show up when they need something and disappear when you need space. And if you're not careful, you will keep rearranging your life to accommodate people who would never do the same for you, not because they are evil, but because you trained them to expect it. When you begin protecting your energy, you will notice resistance. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will call you distant. They will say you've changed, and they will be right. You have changed. You are choosing alignment over approval, focus over familiarity, peace over people pleasing. And that choice will feel uncomfortable before it feels empowering. Your future requires solitude, not isolation, but intentional space. Space to think clearly, space to hear direction, space to build without interruption. Every great transformation demands seasons of withdrawal, not because you don't love people, but because you are becoming someone new. And becoming requires silence. Distractions don't always look like chaos. Sometimes they look like good opportunities that arrive at the wrong time. Sometimes they look like conversations that go nowhere. Sometimes they look like scrolling, gossip, and constant noise that dulls your hunger for more. And if you don't guard your energy, you will wake up years from now wondering where your drive went. Your energy is currency. Where you spend it determines what grows. If you keep investing it in things that don't multiply, you will stay depleted. But when you become intentional, when you start saying no without guilt and yes with conviction, something shifts. Your focus sharpens, your vision clears. Your strength returns. This year, protecting your energy means choosing your future over your familiarity. It means valuing your peace more than people's opinions. Because when your energy is guarded, your purpose finally has room to breathe. There comes a moment when talking is no longer enough, when explaining, announcing, and promising begin to feel hollow. You realize that words have been doing too much of the heavy lifting in your life, and results have been doing too little. Not because you are dishonest, but because you are tired of convincing people of what you haven't yet proven to yourself. And that's the moment when something shifts, you stop performing. You start becoming. Being the proof is not loud. It doesn't rush to be seen. It doesn't argue with doubt or defend itself against skepticism. Proof doesn't need permission, and it doesn't need applause. Proof shows up early, stays late, and lets consistency do the talking. While others are announcing their intentions, proof is quietly building evidence. You have spent seasons trying to be understood, trying to explain your vision to people who could only see you through the lens of who you used to be. You've tried to convince them that you're changing, that you're serious this time, that you're different now. But people don't believe declarations. They believe patterns. They don't trust motivation. They trust momentum. There is a freedom that comes when you stop trying to prove yourself to others and start proving yourself to yourself. When your focus shifts from being validated to being disciplined, from being recognized to being reliable. You stop checking who's watching. You stop needing permission to evolve. And in that quiet space, growth accelerates. Results are uncomfortable because they demand patience. They don't show up on your timeline. They don't respond to pressure. They arrive when the work has been done long enough to compound. And that waiting season can test you, especially when nobody notices your effort, when your progress is invisible, when your sacrifice goes unacknowledged. But invisible work always produces visible outcomes eventually. Being the proof means allowing time to be your witness. It means letting your consistency outlast people's doubt. Some will mock your silence. Some will assume you've quit. Let them. Silence is not absence. Silence is focus. While they are talking, you are training. While they are judging, you are building. And one day, without a speech, without an announcement, the results will speak. You don't need to defend your growth. Growth is self-explanatory. You don't need to argue with the past version of yourself either. That version is not your enemy. It's simply outdated. The goal is not to impress. The goal is to become undeniable, and undeniable doesn't happen overnight. It happens through repetition, restraint, and resilience. There is power in letting people underestimate you. Underestimation removes pressure. It gives you room to work without interference. It frees you from the weight of expectations and allows you to exceed them quietly. When the proof arrives, it doesn't shock because you announced it. It shocks because you embodied it. At some point, your life must answer the questions your mouth keeps asking, not with arguments, but with evidence of discipline, evidence of growth, evidence of alignment. And when that evidence is undeniable, conversations change, doubt dissolves, respect replaces skepticism. This year is not about being seen trying. It's about being seen transformed. Not through words, but through consistency. Not through promises, but through patterns. Let your habits preach. Let your progress testify. Let your life do the talking. Because when you become the proof, you don't need to convince anyone. The results introduce you for you. So hear me as I take my seat. 2026 is not asking for your excuses. It's demanding your decision. You've survived long enough. You've waited long enough. You've explained long enough. This is the year you stop chasing approval and start walking in alignment. No more delays, no more disappearing, no more half commitments. Stand up in your own life. Choose yourself without apology. Work in silence, walk in discipline, move in faith. And when they ask what happened to you, tell them nothing happened. You finally showed up.